An entitled old jerk loses his mind when he sees me walking through a shorter line to get through customs at an airport. And despite the fact that I needed the extra assistance after having surgery on both of my knees, this guy refused to leave me alone, resulting in him getting pulled aside by an officer. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened last week. I had double knee surgery like the title says, but I needed to fly the day afterwards. So I call the airline and the airport. I explain my situation and I arrange for extra assistance. As I'm hobbling with my canes towards the short line at passport control, as there was supposed to be a wheelchair for me there, but it didn't show up, this entitled old jerk standing in the regular passport line starts yelling at me. He starts screaming at me about why I get to go through the short line when, according to him, half of his body is destroyed. Mind you, the guy who's standing is looking pretty fit, except for his gut, and he's wearing a large backpack on the destroyed side of his body. Now, I try to be nice and tell him to ask the security personnel nicely, and maybe they'll let him use the short line, but this apparently just pissed him off more, because he then flips me the bird, along with saying, "Screw you, jerk." So I just say, "Okay, buddy," and I keep hobbling down the short line. I then look back and I see the guy having an animated conversation with security, and they eventually let him into the short line. So I guess he took advantage of my advice and got what he wanted. But this apparently isn't good enough for this dude, because he's standing behind me huffing and puffing and just breathing down my neck. The next thing I know, he pushes past me because I choose to protect my knees instead of blocking him. He then pushes past two old ladies in wheelchairs and goes to the front of the line. The custom agent sees what happens, and bless her heart, she tells him to go aside for further screening. He is still standing there opening his bag for customs and arguing with a giant customs officer when I get to the passport desk. The nice customs officer clears me in 2 seconds and then apologizes for making me wait. And the last I saw of this jerk, he was still yelling at the customs officer while they toss his bag to the side. Now, I really hope he pushed it and ended up in a small room answering questions to a custom officer, all for at least a few hours just to make sure he misses his flight, because this guy truly was a massive jerk. Yeah, I will never understand why people act this way, because seriously, does he not see people around him watching his weird antics? Is it seriously that hard to just mind your own business and not attack other people because of perceived differences? Like, I don't know about you, but I like to mind my own business and just stay in my lane when it comes to other people. And just because someone's going through a shorter line doesn't mean I'm gonna chime in and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you're getting this short line. I deserve it more than you do." So yeah, that guy's a piece of garbage, and honestly, I think he's getting karma in the best way possible. Because while it's one thing to yell at a passenger, it is an entirely different situation when you start yelling at a customs officer, because that could land you in quite a bit of hot water. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend ruined my trip to Italy, as he literally started problems with me the second I landed overseas, claiming that I didn't care about him enough and that I was focusing on my friends more than I was focusing on him. And despite the fact that I was apologizing for somehow offending him, he demanded that I apologize from the heart, because according to him, I didn't mean it the first time that I said it. And at this point, I'm so frustrated that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I've been dating my 25-year-old boyfriend for about a year. I went to Italy for 4 days with my father, and I was looking forward for these vacations because I was working part-time and writing my thesis at the same time. And for reference, I work with telemarketing, and it is very stressful. Now, it's important to know that my boyfriend always had the tendency to make problems over nothing. He says I hurt him and makes me feel guilty because of very small things. He stresses me almost every week. Sometimes I think the reasons he gets upset are ridiculous, but sometimes I wonder if I'm being too insensitive. However, because of this, I'm starting to stop enjoying his company because it feels like a headache. When I was flying to Italy, he wished me a good trip, which I replied to him by saying thank you and I'll see you there, and I left a kiss emoji at the end. Then he answers by saying enjoy a lot and sends me a screenshot that he used the money of my meal card to pay something, and he sent me back the money. When the plane landed, I saw the messages and I replied by saying okay, and he reacts only with one emoji to my message without even replying. I was busy looking for my luggage and finding the bus I have to catch to go to the hotel with my dad, and he didn't reply to the message the entire day. I thought that maybe he was waiting until nighttime to text me back since I was traveling, and it's hard to text while you're traveling. Then my friends also wish me a good trip and give me suggestions of what to visit in the city, which I did reply, but honestly, I barely talked to anyone because I was so busy catching public transportation. I was also walking around and I was trying to find the hotel, and it was like this the entire trip. I was always visiting monuments and always always walking. At nighttime, he messages and tells me how angry he is with me, all because I never replied to him, and he saw me online the entire day, asking me who I was talking to in the first place. But I told him he was the one who didn't reply, and I was talking with my mom and my friends because they wished me a good trip. He says I should have replied to his message that says enjoy a lot, but I only replied with okay to his screenshot. So I apologized and said I was a bit busy, but I was also expecting a message back from him. And honestly, I was just surprised he didn't ask me how my flight was. He then proceeded to annoy me for the entire trip, saying that he's not my priority and that I don't give him enough importance, and that I value my friends more than him. I tried explaining that I was just busy and I barely talked to anyone. I just replied to their messages, and I don't see anything wrong with that. He then didn't text me back because he just didn't want to. I mean, I barely have any friends to begin with, only like 2 of them. We barely hang out because we have busy lives, and we only talk by message anyways. How is that giving more importance than my boyfriend? He also started asking me for screenshots of my conversations, which I just completely refused. He then gets mad at me saying that I don't want to share anything and says that partners are supposed to share everything. There's no privacy between them. But I don't think he should demand of me screenshots of my WhatsApp messages. And then he started demanding me for more apologies, saying that I didn't say sorry from the heart. I didn't reply to his messages for a few hours because I was busy visiting the city. He then posts his statuses with revengeful quotes, basically saying that karma will get me and he will watch me screwing up my life, all because of what I did to him. And I thought this attitude was so disgusting. He's wishing me bad because of a very small thing. He knew I was looking forward to these vacations and still makes my life a living nightmare and just ruining my trip, because honestly, I just wanted 4 days of peace and enjoyment. Yeah, your boyfriend is an immature piece of garbage. Like, what is his problem? First of all, he's trying to be like, oh, you didn't apologize from the heart, you need to say it again. Like, that is a massive red flag. That is so unacceptable. You don't talk to your girlfriend like that. Like, seriously, what's wrong with him? And since we're talking about it, you did not need to apologize for anything in that scenario. You literally did nothing wrong. How can this moron not understand that yes, you're busy on a trip overseas? You're literally trying to navigate all these things, and this guy's like, wow, you don't care about me. Okay, have fun screwing up your life. I'm just gonna watch it happen. It's like now, right now, you're choosing to act this way? This is so crazy, it's not even funny. So yeah, I'm just gonna say it. I think your boyfriend's a piece of garbage, and the fact that he would choose right now to cause problems in your life, in my opinion, is a massive red flag, and that is not something that you should ever ignore. Am I the jerk for pointing out that my parents never moved out on their own after they approached me in public after not contacting them for nearly 18 years? Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been no contact with my parents for nearly 18 years. They were awful towards me. My father was arrested and convicted on multiple felonies, and they withheld medical care for the last 2 years I was with them. And this year, my son wound up in a day school in the same town that I grew up in. Now, I needed to pick up some supplies for work and figured that I could stop in town before going into the city. Unfortunately, my parents and my brother were there and they saw me, and there were a few other people with them from their church doing some shopping for a food drive. My mother then wailed out loud. She ran up to hug me, but I put my arm out, and when I did that, she cried even more. She said to me, "Oh please, I'm your mom. I brought you into this world." But I told her I wasn't doing this today. And then her church friend started pleading with me, spouting scripture and trying to guilt trip me. Well, my father then glared at me and put his arm around my mother. He said that I'd always been a waste of their energy. For reference, I was unplanned, and they reminded me every chance they could get. In fact, my nickname growing up was Missy, which is basically short for the word mistake. He then followed up with saying that I was a failure in school and there was no way I'd make anything of myself. But I replied by saying that it's funny how once I got the proper medical care, I didn't have the issues with school that I used to have. Before I turned around, I smiled and I said to them, "Oh, and it's rich that you say that when I'm the only person in our family that managed to move out on my own." For reference, my mother never moved out and my father moved into my grandparents' house. They never left, and my elderly grandmother still pays for all their food and utilities. I've had a few cousins tell me that their friends have started to distance themselves because they were told my parents were taking care of my grandmother in their home. And while I don't think I've done anything wrong, my grandmother called me up and basically was super upset that I outed them. She said I should have just walked away and not gone out of my way to embarrass them. So it honestly leaves me wondering if I'm the jerk in this situation, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you fought fire with fire, especially after your dad basically said, "Oh, you're a mistake. You've always been a waste of our energy." Like, with that kind of attitude, I can completely understand why you moved away and why you went no contact for nearly 18 years. This is is so toxic, it's not even funny. Also, the fact that their church friends were like, oh no, but you have to, she's your mother. And then they start spouting off scripture as if that's supposed to like do anything for you. Like they clearly don't know what you went through as a kid. And the fact that they would blindly follow your parents in this is so annoying. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, even if your grandmother is upset, because the way your parents acted in this scenario, in my opinion, was completely unacceptable. My entitled uncle is practically wishing that my grandma would pass away just so he can kick my adoptive uncle out of my grandma's house. And despite the fact that he has sold off so much property that my grandfather and grandma have owned, this guy is on a power trip. And at this point, I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mom has a younger brother that we will be referring to as the entitled uncle. So as a background note, my entitled uncle is the only biological son in my mom's family. And as per our inheritance law, he will earn twice as much as his sisters, with my adoptive uncle not getting the inheritance. Being that my late grandpa was rich, he already felt like since he is the only son of the family, naturally he will earn most of the fortune. So he slacked off for most of the time, and ultimately he became jobless. So for years, he has been selling my late grandfather's lands to fit his glamour lifestyle, and he did this all without consulting the family, including my grandmother. My grandma still gives him allowance for his daily life and his medicines. He is married with 2 kids, and all of his kids' education, tuitions, and needs are all paid for by my grandmother. Until now, him and his family periodically come to our house to ask for money from my grandma, and my grandma, being a mom, and gladly gives him about 1 to 3 million of my country's currency per month. Now, my grandma retired from the police department medical unit and still got paid monthly from our government as a civil servant retiree with benefits, and she also rents out a lot for a furniture factory as well as a furniture store, which gives her more income. Now, this land that she owns was mostly managed by my mom and my adoptive uncle. So basically, since my mom lives with my grandma, my adoptive uncle's job is to monitor the lot and report to my mom if there's any incident or stuff that needs to be fixed. Also, this lot is my grandma's main source of income. Anyways, a couple days ago, I accidentally overheard my mom half yelling at my grandma because my grandma asked for more money. At first, my mom asked if the money she gave yesterday is not enough, to which my grandma said that she gave all the money to my entitled uncle for his medicines. Now, my mom was pretty shocked because the amount of money she gave my grandma is not little. And this is where I heard my mom say the following. She said to her, "Mom, I'm telling you right now, I'm not willing to give money to someone who is praying for your passing. He is your son, and yet he wished that you would pass away soon." So after the incident, I asked my mom what happened because my mom was hyperventilating because of the confrontation. My mom told me that a couple days ago, my entitled uncle comes to the lot and interrogates my adoptive uncle about some renovations. And for reference, my parents decided to renovate the main house on the lot because it is run down. Basically, my entitled uncle wants to let his guests sleep in the main house, but my adoptive uncle told him no because the main house is basically my mom's territory. So, being the typical entitled jerk that he is, my uncle then said, "You'll see later when mom passes away. Soon I'll be kicking you out because guess what? I'm the owner of this property after mom dies." He then went to see my grandma and said the same thing but reworded it. My grandma then told my mom about it, and she was heartbroken because she can't believe that her son, whom she doted by providing all of his needs, was able to say something like that. But anyways, I heard all of it, and while my entitled uncle's intention was to scare my adoptive uncle away, him saying that soon he'll be kicking out my adoptive uncle after my grandma passes away is like him hoping for my grandma's demise so that he can rule the lot. Even if grandma passed away, the property is not entirely his. It will be owned by the family and ultimately be sold off, and the earnings will be split. I told my mom, with the amount of property he has sold for his own gain and not for grandma's, he should earn less if the property got sold. I tried my best to stay neutral and civil with my uncle, but my whole family knows that I have no respect to him, and I wish that he got his karma. But even with failing internal organs, he still does this thing, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is really awful because your uncle sounds like a piece of garbage. This guy clearly is blinded by money, and he only cares about getting that sweet inheritance no matter what he says or what he does. And that is so disturbing, like that really is just the sign of an awful person. So hopefully your grandmother sees the light of day and understands your uncle's intentions, as well as the fact that he's using her for money. Because if she's smart, she'll cut him loose and not give him a single thing anymore. Because the way he's acting, in my opinion, is so disgusting. Am I the jerk for not defending my stepmother when my dad's family insulted her after she crossed a serious line? Because right now I'm getting scolded for not saying anything, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my grandparents hosted a family dinner on Sunday, and for a while, my dad left because something came up at work for him. My sister and I, both of us being 16 and 17 respectively, were sitting with our cousins when our stepmother corrected us when we said that we had big plans for Halloween and Christmas this year because we were going to be with our maternal side of the family. She told us that those plans still need to be approved by her because dad said yes without running it by her. Well, this is when my dad's family stepped in and told her that she doesn't have the right to stop us from spending time with our maternal family. My stepmother said that as our mom, she does. And since our maternal family never speaks to her or even tries to befriend her, she has the right to say that they're not good for us. Then our grandparents told her she's not our mom, and the more she pretends to be, the less respect she has from anyone. Then it became a situation where our grandparents and our aunts and our uncles piled onto her and reminded her that she didn't give birth to us. We didn't call her mom, and they accused her of preying on a grieving man who was 11 months out from losing his wife when she swooped in and claimed us as hers. And they rub it in her face that neither my sister or I actually value her or love her or even want her in our lives. It became this huge fight because them and my stepmom stormed out. She tried to make my sister and me leave with her, but we refused to go with her, and we said we were staying with our family. Well, my dad was pissed off when he came to pick us up, and he asked me if I stepped in to defend my stepmother, who is a woman in our family, and I just said no. He asked me why on earth did I not do that, but I told him that I didn't want to defend her, and I didn't disagree with everything being said. My stepmother asked why I hadn't spoken up for her, and I told her because everything they said is true, and I would never defend her for anything. Dad then said he's not going to give us extra time with mom's family at Christmas, but my sister kind of talked him around on that because she cried to him, which made him give in. But I got lectured 2 days this week already about 10 years of being a stepmother deserving more respect and value, and being worth defending in the family. My dad told me I'm a few months away from being a man, and I need to act more like one. And that means defending the women in our lives, but especially the ones that we love. I told him that I always defend the people I love when I need to, and this made my stepmother cry. It made my dad walk out of the room to calm down because his wife was crying. Dad told me I'm a bad example to my sister, and the only reason she doesn't adore our stepmother is because she has followed my lead, and I should think about my influence and the fact that I'm risking a relationship with my stepmother in the future. Now, I should add that I've said similar things to her before, and to my dad as well, but they've never truly listened to me. So am I the jerk for the way I handled this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your stepmom really crossed the line here in my opinion, and that is completely inappropriate. Like, that really is not okay. She can't sit there and pretend to be your mom and then try to be like, I deserve all the respect in the world. And it's like, dude, like, are you serious right now? This really is obnoxious, and there really is no reason to act like this. So no, you didn't do anything wrong because your stepmom, in my opinion, was being incredibly rude. Am I the jerk for asking my employee to show up at their scheduled time after they blew me off literally 10 minutes before their shift? Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old female and I own a bakery business. My fiance's mother, who's 65 years old, works for me as the primary baker. I offer a flexible schedule, and I told her she could pick the hours that she would like to work. Prep takes place in a kitchen set up within my home, and every week she tells me what day and time she would like to come and do her baking prep work. But every week she had been late, and I have never complained to her about it or made any comments. A few days ago, she told me that she would come bake at 4:30 p.m. start, and that's honestly not a problem. I got off work at around 3:30 and began prepping dough for her to bake on her arrival. I turned my oven on around 4 o'clock p.m. because it does take a while to heat up, but by 4:20, she texted me that she was going to dinner and would be coming by afterwards. But she didn't give me a time for arrival, but I didn't say anything to her about it or even complain about it. I had the oven on and time to kill, so I just started doing some prep to get ahead of the game. I figured that since she was going to be late, I might as well utilize the time that I had. Well, my fiance's mom showed up at 5:58. When she got there, she asked why I was baking, and I said I figured I could just get ahead of the game rather than let the dough sit around. She then asked me if I had a problem with her being late, and I said I have no issues. I would just appreciate it if next time she could give me 24-hour notice of when she plans to come to work so I can plan accordingly. Well, she then said that she had an issue with it. I asked her what she meant, and she told me it was insulting that I began her job. I told her I didn't mean any ill will by it. I was just trying to use the time that I had, but she told me that she just wanted to get the work done and that we would talk about it later. I gave it a couple of hours and went back into the kitchen to ask if she could take a quick break and we could discuss the issue because I would really like to find a resolution if possible. I asked her how she was feeling, and she told me, well, if I think there's an issue, then I should speak first. I said to her, well, I said I had no issues and you were the one who said you had a problem, so I'm just trying to understand what's going on. But she then told me again that it was insulting that I started her job. She said that I told her she could pick her own hours, and if I have different expectations to please communicate them. I said to her, I don't have a problem with you picking your own hours. I'm just asking that you let me know when you plan to come and arrive at that time so I can plan accordingly. To this, she said to me, well, this is how I feel. I'm not the only one for this job. You are the way you are, and you can find someone else. Now, my fiance was in the other room listening and was just as confused as I was. I then went upstairs and I cried. I have been close with my fiance's mom for years and have never had any sort of argument or disagreement. We have only ever had a very positive relationship. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk, and honestly, I would even be questioning if she should be working for you in the first place. If this really is your business, and she says she's going to be here at 4:20 and then arrives over an hour and a half late, like in my opinion, that's a big sign that yes, she has got to go. Because what she's doing is completely unacceptable. Like, this is absolutely disgusting behavior because she is taking advantage of you and basically saying, oh, but this is what we agreed to. You said I could set my own hours. But it's like, yeah, you could set your own hours, but you have to fulfill that agreement when you do pick your hours, stupid. You can't just blow me off suddenly right before your shift and be like, oh, I'm going to dinner instead. I'll be there when I feel like it. Like, at that point, you might as well start doing her job and probably looking for a new baker. Like, no one who actually respects their boss would be like, oh, I'll just show up when I want to. Like, no, you're going to show up when you said you're going to show up and not whenever you feel like it. Now, also to the original poster, I think you need to realize that this is your business, and if she's not taking it seriously and is affecting your bottom line, then you're the one that's going to be punished for it and not her. So truly, you should not be getting upset about this. Instead, you really should be like putting your foot down and saying, no, you have to come to work or I'm going to replace you. And sure, you've always had a good relationship with your fiance's mother, but clearly she's not a good worker, and that, in my opinion, is not your fault. So no, you're not the jerk for the way you reacted, but I think you would be a fool for not putting your foot down and standing more firm. Because from the sounds of it, your fiance's mother is only going to take advantage of you until you finally stand up for yourself and act like an owner. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.